Welcome to the collaboration between the Indiana State Board of Animal Health and Purdue Extension here in Indiana. Today we're going to talk about official identification for exhibition animals. My name is Teresa Shuck. I'm an animal health specialist for the Indiana State Board of Animal Health, and I'm joined by Courtney Stierwalt, and she'll introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Courtney Stierwalt. I'm the Indiana 4-H Animal Science Extension Specialist. As Teresa mentioned, in this video, we will go over the animal identification requirements for each species for 4-H. Then Teresa will share why official ID is so vital in protecting Indiana's livestock industry and what exactly 4-H families need to know. It's important to note as we begin that 4-H identification requirements meet or exceed Indiana and the USDA identification requirements. In this next slide, you can see that we do go above and beyond the requirements listed by the Board of Animal Health. However, that is completely okay, and we do it for our own individual reasons in our counties as well as at the state fair level. So it's important to note that show organizers may set additional requirements to meet alongside the state's minimum requirements. We will start off our presentation with our small ruminant ID, so things like sheep and goats. For this year, we want to make sure that everyone is aware of the change in terms of what is required at the Indiana State Fair, which we will talk about a little bit later. But we also want to make sure you're aware of what official ID looks like in the state of Indiana. So to be officially ID'd as a small ruminant, they must have at least one of the following: an official Scrapie ID tag with the USDA US Shield, official Scrapie tattoo beginning with the state postal code, in our instance that would be IN, along with the individual animal ID number, a registration tattoo that is noted on the registration paper that will accompany that animal, or a registration microchip, an electronic implant for those animals that have those, that must be noted on the registration paper that again accompanies that animal. Another important factor is to recognize that wethers in the state of Indiana that are 18 months of age or younger must bear a unique and permanent form of identification. In many of our counties, that is the County 4-H tag, and that will meet the requirement. As we will mention throughout the presentation, it's always important to check with your local county extension office and local 4-H program to see what requirements are specific to your county. So, we have some big news for the year 2020. Those state fair-bound sheep and meat goats will no longer be retinal imaged at our weigh-in. That doesn't mean that they don't attend a weigh-in day or an organized event by the county. However, this year we will be moving towards the direction of uniformity across all of our species that use 840 RFID tags. So the concept of the 840 RFID tag is one that we've used in beef cattle, dairy cattle, and swine for several years in the 4-H program, but more importantly in our state. This tag will be given to an animal, again, at their identification day, and will be placed in the ear of the animal to help identify that particular animal. It's important to note that these tags do not look like most of the RFID tags we've seen in our animals at this point in time. These tags are called shear well tags, and they are specifically designed for sheep and goat. And more importantly, they've been tested and have a very great response rate in those animals. As we move along, we will look at our requirements for state fair-bound sheep. For market lambs, commercial use, and for market lambs and commercial use, an 840 RFID tag and 5-digit county tag and DNA hair sample will be required. For registered use, there will be the requirement of the 840 tag and an ID that matches the registration papers, as well as the DNA hair sample. More information will be available through your local extension office on how to pull DNA samples. For our state fair-bound goats, meat goat wethers and unregistered market goat females, also known as wether dams, will be required to have an 840 RFID tag a Cat 5-digit county tag, and a DNA hair sample. For our registered boar goat females, they will once again require their breed registry tattoo and a DNA hair sample. For our dairy goats and our pygmy goats, our dairy goat wethers will require a 5-digit county tag or tattoo. Our registered dairy goat females, which will be shown at the Indiana State Fair, will require a breed registry tattoo that matches the registration papers. Registered pygmy goats will require a breed registry tattoo or microchip that matches the registration paper. Unregistered pygmy goats must bear official USDA Scrapie tag or official Scrapie tattoo. Cattle ID is very similar to what it has been in the past. It's just important to note that all 4-H animals must have their proper tag, must have their proper 840 tag, tattoo, and county tag, if applicable, in the 4-H online system. Again, we'll say it several times throughout this presentation. When in doubt, always check with your local extension office. Tags will be required, and they may or may not be radio frequent in the state of Indiana. 15 digits beginning with 840 and a USDA shield indicate that that is a recognized 840 tag. We also have news or bright tags, and those are the National Uniform Ear Tagging System. Those are steel or plastic, are both accepted with the US shield. And the official USDA program tags, we also have the orange calf foot vaccination tag with the US shield. For state fair cattle, beef steers, dairy beef steers, dairy feeder steers, and commercial heifers, as well as market heifers, must have an 840 RFID tag and a 5-digit county tag, as well as a DNA hair sample to be eligible for the Indiana State Fair. For registered beef heifers, you must have a 840 RFID tag and a tattoo, as well as a DNA hair sample. Dairy cattle must have an 840 RFID tag and the animal's registered name, as well as registration number or DAM's registration number listed in our beautiful 4-H online system. For Swine ID, to be official in the state of Indiana with the Board of Animal Health, you must have at least one of the following requirements: 840 tags, which may or may not be RFID or radio frequency or a radio frequency device. Those again will be 15 digits, begin with 840. The News Bright tag, or the National Uniform Ear Tagging System, that's a steel or plastic, are both acceptable with the US shield. Official premise ID number, or the PIN tag number, and those must include the premise number as well as the animal's unique ID imprinted by the manufacturer. The ear notch, which must be recorded in the book of record of any purebred registry association, or the tattoo, which again must be registered with the Swine Registry Association. Again, we're sharing with you what the Board of Animal requirements are, but we can't stress enough that all 4-H animals must have the proper ear notch and 840 tag in the 4-H online system by the deadline of May 15th. So for State Fair, there are no changes in Swine ID. We will still require the 840 RFID tag and ear notch, as well as the DNA hair sample. For Equine and Camelid, or llama and alpaca, we will require, again, for horse and pony and llama and alpaca, the color picture, which is a nice image that shows the face as well as all 4 feet of the animal.
Okay, I'm Teresa with the State Board of Animal Health, and we're going to talk a little bit about what official identification is and why it's important. So a couple things you need to know is that all official identification is linked to a premises identification number, so that livestock can be traced back to the farm of origin and stops along the way. Official ID tags can come in lots of sizes and lots of shapes and lots of colors. As mentioned before, some tags have postal codes on them, for example, IN. Some of them are only numbered. All official tags have the U.S. shield, so that's the U.S. with the little road sign looking around it. That makes it an official tag. They have the statement that says unlawful to remove, and they're tamper resistant. So the tags have been tested for their ability to stay together and to not be messed with and pulled apart. When you see unlawful to remove on a tag, that means it's a federal crime to cut out or remove this official ID tag. Once placed, an official ID should remain in the animal for its life. Next, we're going to talk about proper tag placement because this helps with tag retention as well. Official ID tags may be placed in either ear, left or right. When placing an ear tag, be sure to avoid blood vessels and cartilage ridges. The best location for an ear tag is about 1/4 of the way away from the head, between the blood vessels and the cartilage ridges. Be sure to put the button portion of the RFID tag in the inner part of the ear. This will help the tag remain better. Now, premises identification is required for all 4-H members, and when you go into 4-H online, you have to fill that in. So in the state of Indiana, anyone who has livestock is required to have a premises ID number. It's mandatory for locations with cattle, bison, swine, sheep, goats, and captive service. Premises with poultry, horses, camelids, rabbits, and fish may register voluntarily. Premises ID numbers are assigned to an address as a piece of property, and they stay with that property even if the ownership changes. So the premises ID number will be assigned to where the animals reside. That may or may not be where the owner gets their mail, the owner of the animal. All premises ID numbers are in the same format. So they're a 7-digit alphanumeric format, and they're random. They always begin with leading with 2 zeros. Every 4-H member who shows livestock needs a premises ID for the site where the animals are housed. The premises ID on the 4-H registration form is where the animals live. If the animals are at Grandma's house, then Grandma's premises ID goes on the 4-H registration form. I cannot stress enough that it's important to get your premises ID long before the May 15th deadline. As you can imagine, our call volume is high, so request your premises ID early, or I request us to look it up early so that you don't have to be delayed. So how do you get a hold of a premises identification number? So in order to get one, you need to contact our office. There's an online premises application form. You can also verify a premises ID if you're either unsure of if you have one at the site where your animals reside, or if you lost your premises ID. We're always glad to look those up. You can shoot us an email. We can almost always get back to you in the same day. So why do we go to all this trouble to get premises identification and official identification in our livestock? We at the Board of Animal Health, we use the premises ID, official ID, and producer records to identify animals that have possibly been exposed to diseases. We have had instances where 4-H animals were involved in animal disease traces. So it's important to remember that you're a part of a bigger system. Exhibition livestock are part of a larger part of agriculture in Indiana. You can see from this slide that little Indiana ranks #1 in 2 different commodity rankings. So you may have exhibition livestock, but you are of vital importance to part of a bigger system. And that's why we invest in you guys and why we want you to do the premises identification and the official ID and keep good records. We're going to go on to some of the most commonly asked questions from 4-H families so that hopefully we can help you out. So the first question we get, especially this time of year, is how do I get a premises ID? So you can contact our office. You can apply online 24/7. And the next question is, how can I look up my existing premises ID or find out if I have one? The easiest thing is to contact our office or shoot us an email, and we'd be happy to help you with that. The next question we get a lot is, what address do I use for the premises ID? So you need to use the address of where the 4-H animals are housed. This may not be your home, or it may not even be Grandma's, but whatever address the animal lives at, that's the address that she'll use. And if you have a unique situation where an animal is housed where there is no address, please contact our office. The next question, I don't live on a farm, what premises ID should I use? So you will use the premises ID where your animals are housed, and you can still arrange to get the mail or email with the official premises ID number sent to your address. Next question, can more than one 4-H member use the same premises ID? They absolutely can. Whomever keeps their livestock at that address will all use the same premises ID. This is a question we get a lot, especially with sheep and goats. Do I need a flock ID number if I only show sheep or goats and I don't breed them? So as an exhibitor, you don't need your own Scrapie Flock ID. The sheep or goat should come from a flock or herd that already has a Scrapie Flock ID number. If you do begin to breed your own livestock and you need a Scrapie Flock ID number, you can go to our link online. You can read more information about what your tag options are and how to get official ID for your project for next year. Next question, is the Scrapie Flock ID number the same as the premises ID number? And I know this is a confusing one, but no, the Scrapie Flock ID number is a number that's assigned specifically as part of the USDA's Scrapie Eradication Program, and they all begin with the postal code. So in Indiana, they begin with IN. In other states, they begin with their postal code. So you may have an animal that comes or that you purchase that has an out-of-state Scrapie tag, and that is perfectly fine. It will remain in the animal. So at the Indiana State Fair, we have a real collection of postal abbreviations on Scrapie tags, and that's perfectly fine because those are official and they can't be removed. Why do sheep and goats need Scrapie tags? Great question. Sheep and goats need Scrapie tags because the USDA set a goal to eradicate or eliminate Scrapie, which is a disease, from the sheep and goat industry in the United States. And these tags help us trace them back from their point of harvest. We use the Scrapie tag when we take a test of the animal. We can trace them all the way back to their farm of origin. This is a good question as well. Does my baby goat or lamb need a Scrapie tag? All sheep and goats, regardless of age or size, need some form of USDA official ID when they leave their farm of origin. So this could be several different things. It could be an official tag. It could be an official Scrapie tattoo with an individual number, or if the animal is registered, it could have a tattoo or a microchip with matching registration paper. The only exception is wethers under 18 months of age, and they may have any form of unique ID. Next question.
All right, so we're going to move on to some of the common questions that come from extension offices as well as families who call the state 4-H office. So this is Courtney Stierwald again with Indiana 4-H, and one of the most common questions I get is, if my animal already had an 840 RFID tag, should I add one from my extension office too? And actually, no, you don't need to do that, nor would we remove that tag. Livestock should only have one 840 RFID tag at a time. If the original tag is lost, then it may be replaced by another RFID tag, which will be noted, but this information should be shared and documented with your 4-H educators. So anytime you lose a tag like that, as we mentioned in the next slide, you'll want to contact your local extension office and they will help you with the replacement tag. In this situation, the next question is, if I lose a tag, what do I do? Again, contact that extension office. The 4-H educator will assist in retagging the animal and updating the information in the 4-H online system. The 4-H member should also document any tag changes that are made for their own records. Another question we commonly hear is, what year do I put the tag in? And it is 100% your preference, so you can choose either ear. Does my baby calf have to have an RFID tag? All calves going to a show must have individual and official ID. Again, see rules to determine if the official ID tag must contain an RFID chip. Another question we get And this is a very, very important one that you know. When do my animals have to be identified in the 4-H online system? Market steers have the deadline of April 1st, and all other species have the deadline of May 15th. It is imperative if you plan to show at the Indiana State Fair that that information is in the system by those respective deadlines. You also need to, again, check with your county for any local policies that may reflect different dates. To recap, official ID is required and should never be removed. You need to get a premise ID from BOAH, and please don't wait till the last minute. You can do that at any time. Register ID numbers with your local 4-H program. Check 4-H specific requirements for your animal information, so you want to make sure that you are prepared and ready to go and don't miss any important deadlines, and always feel free to call your local extension office. If you have any questions, again, please contact your local 4-H extension office or the Indiana State Board of Animal Health with the websites listed here. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to helping and hope you have a successful show year in 2020.